Hey guys, in this episode I sat down with Rainey, visionary and founder of a non-profit organisation called Hope+Light, aiming to help people who have fell victim to human trafficking. Laura is a mum of two, she is married, she grew up in a good Christian home, but one day God gave Laura this vision to do something radical and to do something that no one else was doing. We pick up this episode where Laura begins to tell us why she is so passionate in what she does. In this episode we cover human trafficking, we cover personal stories, vision and faith, and we talk about how we can step outside of our comfort zones in order to be radical. If you are challenged by anything that is said in this, please get in contact via our Facebook and our Instagram. But before we go on, grab a cup of coffee, jump in your car, drive to work, do what you have to do, and please tune in to what Laura has to say. And if you could just share a little bit about that with our listeners.
Okay. So firstly, Hope+Light is really established to and committed to helping girls, women and children find freedom from trafficking. Why have I got such a passion for these women and children? Well, really, that was a question that I didn't really know the answer to myself until relatively recently. And it wasn't even really a question that I asked myself. It was just something that I knew was there, something that was present in my heart, really like a gift that God had given to me. And that really stems from a trauma that I had in my own childhood. And it was really through this impact of that on my life that I felt that I could draw emotional understanding and similarities to these women and children. And I think that is really the reason that I'm so passionate about this, and these young women and children who have fallen victim to modern day slavery. I believe that, God had this planned for me, and this is really his way of using me to bring good out of the bad. And I think it's all been connected in his grand plan throughout my life. And I can say that throughout it all, he has guided me, protected me and watched over me to bring me to this point today of finding Hope+Light in order to help these women and children, no matter how insignificant or small that help might be.
Yeah, so going from what, that clearly makes you passionate, and that means that you can relate with the people that you've come across and work with. But how then has that passion grown? And how have you grown that passion, or how has God talked about God's grand plan? And I'm a big believer in God is in every single intricate detail of our lives. So how has he grown that? How have you taken steps to grow that passion?
Okay. Well, basically, this issue of human trafficking and helping the vulnerable and exploited, sexual exploitation, or whatever way you want to look at it, was just always something that I had this real interest in. And it was one particular Sunday morning where I was standing in my kitchen, and I knew that a particular speaker was coming to our church who had spoken before, and was always really felt really challenged by what they had to say about mission work and how to be involved in it. And I just actually stood in my kitchen that morning and I just prayed to God, God, I've been trying to push different doors here. I'm not sure if this is what you want me to do, but if there's anything mentioned on human trafficking this morning in church, then I'm going to take that as a sign from you that you want me to do something about it. Yeah. So it was at that point then I went to church, and it was through Asia Link, and it was just all really about human trafficking. And I just sat in church and I just felt that God had shot an arrow across to me in church, and it was just really, I just was feeling really emotional, and just knew at that stage that this was clearly the sign from God that, he wanted me to do something about it. So really from that, I ended up volunteering and helping in Asia Link. I initially went there to see how I could help, because I wanted to do something in terms of human trafficking, which was difficult because, yes, the girls are over there and I'm over here, but I was very determined that, I needed to do something. It was generally at the start, I was just kind of helping out with admin, and I had gone down to 3 days in teaching in order to do this. And I just felt, I needed to go. I wasn't fulfilling what God wanted me to do. So I felt I needed to go out and see the situation for myself, which was a big decision at the time, because obviously I have 2 young children at home, and but I just felt so strongly in that God was really speaking to me about this. So that led me to going out to Asia the first time. And I went out to Asia and visited the first project that I became involved with, and spent quite a bit of time there. But I just know that whenever I was there, I went in, it wasn't even anything specific happening, but I just know the minute I walked into that building that I just was really emotional. And I'm not a cry kind of person, but I basically sat around that table thinking, please nobody speak to me, because I'm going to start. So I just was like, nobody speak to me. And I just knew. And really from that, speaking to our partners there, and they just basically said, Laura, how do you feel about selling some of the jewelry that the girls are making, and driving a wee bit of awareness about what we're trying to do here at home? To which at that stage I thought, oh, flip, I couldn't do that. I have so much to do. I'm trying to balance too many plates already. But I just knew deep down that this was it, and this was really what God was mapping out this path for me. And so therefore that's when I decided to go ahead with that, and that's really from that how Hope+Light was formed.
Wow. Really, really informative, and it's amazing how, just listening to you there, you kind of nearly gave God an ultimatum and said, if you're going to speak to me, and God did that, and God always, it's amazing how God always shows up whenever we ask him to, or whenever we least expect them to. But just one wee thing, whenever you were talking there, with Hope+Light, there's different parts of Hope+Light, so different styles of jewellery, is that right?
Yes.
So could you...
Yes, so basically, Hope+Light is really important that, people are aware out there that this is just not selling jewellery. I think, there was a comment made a while back that somebody said, yes, Laura has left teaching to start up a jewellery business. And I thought, what am I doing wrong that, that somebody actually thinks that? Because that is not my vision at all. My clear vision is that we want to be able to help the vulnerable reach out to these women and to show them that they are worthy, and that they are worth so much more, and that they can find, true freedom and hope through Christ.
Yeah. And just something you said there, Laura, about, I think it's an amazing vision. I think it's an incredible vision, and it's an incredible story that you've shared so far. But that worth is so important for not only young girls now, but for young guys too. It's it's worth is, everybody wants to know that they're loved and that they have worth, but so often we look for other things to find our worth in. So for some of our listeners, it might be we look at Instagram or Facebook or relationships, but really true worth is found in God. So kind of talking about that, what are the different parts then?
Well, yes, firstly, as I said, our greatest goal is to raise awareness of this huge problem of human trafficking. and demonstrate how we can work together to end it. But, you know, in that there is obviously the jewellery that provides safe work for these women.
Absolutely.
They are making this jewellery as an alternative to the work that they are previously in. It's safe work. They can get counselling. There's so many ways that you know, making this jewellery and giving them the opportunity for this job, how it helps them. They can feel valued and loved, and it's really to help them grow in strength and dignity, and, you know, find spiritual hope along the way. With these different ranges, they come from different countries. So we have the Mekong range, and it is very much a boho sort of style range.
Okay.
We have the Nokor, which is from Cambodia, which is clay, all made out of polymer clay.
Yeah.
And we have the Surin range, which is beaten metal, you know, sort of more sort of fine jewellery.
Okay, yeah.
And the Journey range is very much Asian influence kind of jewellery, like wrap bracelets, and it's kind of heavy on the earring side because I would be an earring lover. So and just really the Journey range is really to try and bring a wee bit of Asia into it, and, you know, kind of a wee bit of just really that style into it, and a wee bit of me and my travels and connecting it to Asia as well. So that's the four ranges of the jewellery.
Yeah, I love that each one of those ranges is unique, and it's bringing a bit of that culture in, and I love that word journey, because all of us are on a journey, and I love that kind of transfers across. Now, all of that, that's not an easy thing to start up. It's not an easy thing to do. When God gives you a vision, it can be terrifying, and it can be so many different things run through your mind. But what would you say has been the biggest challenges in this journey? And they could be different, they could vary.
Okay. Well, one, I would have to say, firstly, challenges would be when I've been out to Asia a couple of times now, and when you're out there, you know, it's you see a lot of things, and there's no way you can go and see that kind of thing and not be affected by it. And I would say, coming home from that first trip, it did really affect me, but again, I think that was all interwoven into, you know, God speaking to me and his plan for me, to build this ministry of Hope and Light. So I would say, you know, there's, you know, the challenges of dealing with, you know, the stories, the people that I've met there and what's happening to them is difficult. Also, I would say taking the leap of faith to leave my job in order to do this was massive as well. And I just, you know, believed so strongly that this is what God was calling me to do, that this was my calling. And so yes, the uncertainty of that and the provision, and also I would say another big one would probably be, I think well, out of that and as well comes, you know, the self-doubt and, you know, I'm not going to be able to do this, and I just have to, you know, always just lean on him and know that, you know, he will provide, and that, you know, he has called me into this, and, you know, nothing is going to, you know, stop me from moving this forward. But it's really difficult sometimes with a family to find that balance. At the minute, I would say, since launching the website there a couple of months back, that it's really hard work. I am no stranger to hard work, but I would say that this has been all consuming, and it's very difficult to when you're so passionate about something and know the need, that it's really difficult to separate that out of your life, because it is it's just interwoven into me, so therefore it filters out into every other aspect of my life. So I would say getting a balance, I'm working on it at the minute, you know, to obviously give you know, time to, you know, my family and really time for myself as well, because that doesn't exist.
You need that, because it can, quite a lot of the time, things can be overwhelming.
Yes,
so you need
So yes, I was running around the country meeting people, trying to do this, doing this sort of things, and off to Asia and running around like a headless chicken. So it was like, need to, you know, calm the jets, and, you know, was just spending, you know, time reflecting with him, and just trying to look after myself as well. So that would be one of the challenges.
Going from all of that, there's, whenever God asks you to do something, I think for anybody that's listening, all of us at certain stages of our journey or life, we feel those types of things, whether it be, and right now in the middle of a pandemic, fear seems to be the one thing that is just so prevalent. And we were talking a little bit earlier about how whenever you get out of the way of things, it can be quite scary going back, and it's keeping that drive and that passion to, even when you feel those things, you keep going. So I just think I love your story, and the two main points for this episode of Radical Living podcast is, I just think your story is completely radical. And I think that, you know, stepping out in faith and even what you're doing and going against human trafficking and trying to, the vision of this Hope+Light, to just empower women and give them worth and make them know that they're valued, is just really touching and really amazing. But going in, I think a big misconception, and correct me if I'm wrong, is maybe quite a lot of people think, you know, these women that maybe sell their children or traffic their children or do this, that it's their fault. Is that, and is it?
Well, first of all, I can tell you some of the, you know, of some of the people that I've been involved in working with. Well, you know, what I would say firstly is, you know, human trafficking is an especially significant threat in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Particularly in the open sex tourism sector of, you know, Laos and Bangkok. It's a global issue with 225,000 women and children trafficked annually. It's estimated that every 30 seconds someone is trafficked for sexual exploitation, and 1 in 4 of these are children. I would say, to answer your question about these women, you know, there's so much I can say about that. We'll just give you a few examples. You know, some of the leading causes of human trafficking is poverty. And I've witnessed that firsthand. I've had the opportunity to go out through rural villages in Laos, and really going there and seeing the situations. You know, visited one family where the father was blind, had been from birth, because he had like red eye. They described it to me as, and his wife had one eye because she had walked into a bamboo stick, and they were living in such really poor conditions. And their daughter, whenever I visited their home, was sitting sewing a sackcloth like we would kind of buy coal from. And I was thinking, you know, this girl, it's this kind of girl that's so vulnerable to traffickers coming in and selling to these people. We can get work for your daughter. We can send money back, and we know that that's not the reality, and it's happening all too often. You know, so it's you know, the project that I have, one of the projects I have now in Laos, really works with a group over there that they have girls in every 3 months to teach them sewing skills, jewellery making skills, where they can make the jewellery, and obviously if I sell it, then it provides them with an income, but it's also to let them go back into their villages, set up little co-ops, be independent, and earn a living for their families. Because it's really a desperation where they have no other choice other than if we sell our daughter, or if we, you know, we send her off to work, she'll be okay. Some are so desperate that they have to sacrifice one of their children in order to help the rest of the children. And I do know of one, I've met one young girl who is now safe within one of our projects, and she was sold by her own father because he was ill, and he was hoping before he died to have the rest of the family taken out of the area that they were living in. So he was offered to sell Vin, she was called, for her body weight in rice. That's what she was sold for in the end. But through this project that we partner with, we were able to bring Vin out of that situation now, and now she's safe. And we've worked along with the parents and those who bought her. Yeah, it is a very dangerous situation as well, especially whenever you're dealing with gang trafficking and things. It's not always straightforward. The girls, so that would just be examples of situations about maybe how the girls have been falsely led into it, or how it's came from poverty. For example, in Bangkok and in the cities, it looks very different. The girls are nearly sent there, and they can't really see sometimes a problem with what they're doing, because it's maybe been a cycle that they have. Their parents have maybe done it before. Or really, a lot of them are going there again out of desperation, because the women are the bread earners. They have the responsibility to provide for the family. And there's a lot of onus on them to do that. So if they go to work, a lot of the ladies that I met, they work away from their homes. Their parents look after their children, and they send money back. So that is really how it works, and they have got such a big responsibility to do this. And also there's, with the culture there, if you can read more about that if you want to go on to my website, hopeandlightshop.com. Under my journal section, I have a whole section that talks about the women and the pressure that they have. And it's basically, they're desperate, that they're, all they can think about is, I need to earn money to send back. And then their parents are, they're looking for money, and there's a big part of the culture there where it's pay back your parents financially. That's how much you love them, as in how much you're paying them back financially. So it creates so many issues there. The girls go and say they earn a certain amount 1 month, and they send it back. Then the expectation there's for the same amount the next month, if not more. And then the girls get into debt. They may already have a debt before they get there. So within these projects, we have like debt management programs. Brilliant. But again, some of them become so kind of it's not really an option. They can't see a way out, because they've it's nearly they've kind of been brainwashed into believing that this is this is the only way. There is no other alternative. They probably have no education. They've left education early, or they've just been sold into there, and they've been brought there, and they feel that there's no way out. And we're not just talking about women. There is boys and men involved in this too. And we're not just talking as well about the sexual exploitation and trafficking. I'm also involved now in a project in Pakistan that deals with young children and slave labour and from the brick kiln business. So that's also another project that again is another story. But there's just so many. It's just to try to describe to you that there's so many areas that this affects. It's not just what people stereotypical think, oh, this is how they have got into this work.
And I think that's so easy to do. And I know for me, even talking to you, over the past couple of times that we've met, I would have probably thought typically, well, human trafficking, it's they're sold for sex and to be abused, but there's actually a lot of different avenues, and there's a lot of different ways that they are trafficked and that they're vulnerable to trafficking. So it's been really educational for me and what I've been learning. But whenever you go out, you talked a little bit about your personal experiences. Just, whenever you go out to those countries, you do get to share the gospel with those people. Is that right?
Well, mainly, people, it's not like outreach here where you go out into the streets, or you can set up, especially in Laos, because obviously it's a communist country.
Yes.
But for example, in Bangkok, and the other projects, their main aim is to, obviously, to bring the good news and the hope and freedom that can be found through Jesus Christ. That is done over a period of time. It's really important to build relationships with these women and gain their trust, in the hope that they will come into the program. And another really good way of doing that is once they come into the program and the women see, they can then go back out into these bars and share the gospel, because they've already formed relationships out there. But again, when I've been out there, in and out the bars with my partners and things, it's like clear that there's clear relationships going on there, because and it's built up over time. Listening to what's happening with them, listening to just even simple things like taking them toiletries, or asking them if there's any help, or they might have something going on in their lives at that particular time. And it's just building up relationships really initially, and then slowly then telling them about the good news and the alternative that we can offer them.
No, it's absolutely amazing. Kind of leading on from that, because obviously there's a passion there and a heart there, and kind of talked about you went away with Asia Link, and there's loads of opportunities, especially where we live, to go and serve in different countries and go on different trips. But we've maybe already covered this a little bit, but what is it, do you think, stops people from taking that step and acting and making a difference? We've kind of talked about fear, and it's probably the main one, but
I think fear is a big part of it, but I do think I have to remember myself that yes, it's okay for me, because that's my passion, and I have to understand that not everybody holds the same passion as I do. But also I have been out there and I've witnessed it firsthand, and like people who have never been to Asia or have never experienced or witnessed what I have witnessed, I have that visual impact within my head. For example, eating curry for your breakfast and things, my mum asked me when I was away, do they not have marmalade and toast? So it's a bit like that, and when you're there and in the circumstances, you're thinking, it's just like, I can remember being in Cambodia and walking down an area that they call the Heart of Darkness, and I would say it probably affected me most out of all the places that I've visited, probably because of the sheer poverty and just every kind of evil that was happening there. You would have walked down the street in Cambodia, down by the riverside, and you would come across people just living in a little square meter area. Watched a lady brushing around her wee area, tidying her area, and that was her area. And you would walk along, and then you would see maybe pimps with women, and then mixed into that then is the general public. So you would see people on like exercise bikes that we would see at the park, so they'd be sitting doing their exercise, and then literally across the street then there's pimps. And then you walk on down and you would see a full-blown exercise class going on, and then in amongst this there's like rubbish and dirt and every type of it's just a horrible place. But off this there's the streets which have all the bars, and I just remember walking down that street and saying to the partner that I was with, that works there in that area, I was just so I couldn't believe the children that was, you know, cars and everything was happening. They were just running about the place, and she just said, "But Laura, this is their home." And I just watched. I just knew that these partners are working with these families and these people all the time. And there was this lady, and she was pimping out her own daughter that was the same age as my Ella. And I think at that stage, when I just looked at her, she had her dressed for the night, and I just thought, you know, what are we doing here about this at home? You know, to me, I was just totally sickened, because I just thought, you know, how blessed and how, you know, that we don't have to think about that. That I know my Ella is safe, and that I'm not in those circumstances that these women are in. And just going on down those streets and seeing the girls and meeting the girls and hearing their stories and what's happened to them. And then amongst all this dirt and everything, sitting, I would say this when I'm out talking in different meetings and raising awareness, sitting in the pavement and amongst all this rubbish and, you know, normal people going about their normal day work, and then other people, you know, it was just such a I describe it as a total mishmash. But sitting on the pavement was this little tiny bunny rabbit, about the size of the palm. I could have sat in the size of the palm of my hand, and I remember thinking, what on earth is that doing there? It just looks so unbelievably vulnerable sitting on the pavement, and I just thought, you know, if that's the vulnerability of that wee rabbit, it's nothing in comparison to the vulnerability of these children that are being brought up and subject to this. And Cambodia is really, you know, just one of the many areas that are affected by this. And Cambodia and that area would be really close to my heart, that particular area.
And I think even like listening to that, and just even hearing your personal experiences and your stories, and just hearing what other parts of the world are like. And to be honest, the country we live in as well, Northern Ireland, there's human trafficking happens here too. But how then, for people that are listening to this and are maybe challenged by this, how then can we raise more awareness to help stop this from happening? Do we need to educate ourselves?
Yeah, well, as you're saying, what do you think that stops people maybe from pursuing their passion or, you know, or acting? And I think, you know, the main thing really for me, whenever I'm out and about, you know, speaking at different events or churches, would be that people, there are obviously organisations here that deal with human trafficking, but you know, it's just it's giving people an education of this is actually happening. This is the reality. That there's so much of it. Like at the minute, there's more than 40 million enslaved right now. There's more people enslaved today than ever before. And it's really just giving people an education of that, and learning, you know, really what they could do, and, you know, just what is actually happening. And, you know, there's lots of human trafficking awareness courses about, and also I've got a couple of books that, you know, if you are interested. I had been selling one out and about, which I hope to get more in of, and it's called For Their Tears I Died by Patricia King. And also one that I'd actually put up on my Instagram there recently. It's called Highway to Hell, and it's about childhoods stolen in Brazil. And it's by an author called Matt Roper, who has a lot of involvement in the work in Brazil with the young girls there. Other ways, I think, you know, we need to be maybe more conscious of the goods that we're buying, you know, where are they coming from, who are making these, and just be more conscious of, you know, who might be on the other side of the products that you're actually buying. You know, other ways to you know, to help would be to you know, volunteer. I am kind of I have a few volunteers, but I am always more than happy to, you have anybody else on board that wants to help, raise awareness and support the work. Even simple things like sharing my posts on social media, or commenting on it. I have mentioned that I go out and about and speak, which obviously isn't happening
right
at the
now.
minute, which has been massive for Hope+Light. But I'm just praying that God will lead us through this, and you can do little evenings. I have had ladies do little evenings in their home with 10 people, just even raise awareness, sell a bit of jewellery, or fundraising events on your own. If you want to contact me about anything to do with that, I'm really, you can contact me through the website again, hopeandlightshop.com, or through Instagram or Facebook. I'm Hope and Light Jewellery. But there's so many ways you can help. But I would say, the main thing is to really educate people into the how big a problem this is and what we can do together to break the cycle.
Laura, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything that you've shared, and you've told us there just again to plug your social media. It's Hope and Light Jewellery.
Hope and Light Jewellery, yes.
Yeah, on Instagram and Facebook. And then your website again is hopeandlightshop.com. So if anybody wants to find out more or educate, you can do that. But I just want to say a massive thank you for, and you can share a little bit on this, and just to finish us off, I want to say a massive thank you to you and to charities like Hope and Light, organisations like Hope and Light, who are being radical right now and going against the social norm and going against the flow, and just being radical, and your vision in itself is radical, and how you're doing this is radical, and that's what this podcast is for. It's to inspire people to be like that. But what would you kind of say to someone who is wanting to be radical or to pursue a passion that they have? What would you kind of part them with?
I would say just do it.
Yeah.
In the madness that it's caused me in the roller coaster over the last 2 years, I just feel, although it's really difficult and really tough at times, that I feel that through God's plan I do feel fulfilled, and that invest in this, that I am not just investing in I'm not investing in myself, I'm investing in others and for the greater good of His kingdom. And I think when you push yourself out of your comfort zone and you follow that passion, that God will reward you. And I feel He is rewarding me, because I feel blessed that I am so privileged to be in this position, that I am able to help others. And really it just blows everything else out of the water whenever I go to Asia and have those contacts with people. Nothing else matters. That's why we're here. That's what God has called us to do. All I can say is, I truly believe, and I can say that, I think that God has a plan for everybody's life. He has a vision for your life. You may perhaps think, I'm not capable, I haven't got any talents, and I am feeling my way in the dark with Hope and Light as well, and just taking it a day at a time. But I, can assure you that God will equip, and He will provide for you and your needs if you take the step and just do it, and decide to make these decisions and go out there in faith for Him.
Laura, thank you so much. Just what you're saying there, and I think it's really important for people who are listening. Quite a lot of the time we can get overwhelmed by a lot of stuff, but every day is a step of faith. And I think I said that to you last time. Every day is a step of faith, and I think it's important that people know that none of us have it all together, and
definitely not. No,
and we're just taking those steps. But the one verse that comes to mind whenever you're talking there is John 10:10, and it says, "The thief came to steal, and kill and destroy, but I have come, and that's Jesus saying this, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. And just really want to encourage anybody that's listening to this to take that step of faith.
Just a verse that I just think is really close to my heart, and it's from Joel chapter 2 verses 25 and 26, and it reads, I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten, the great locust and the young locust, the other locusts and the locust swarm. My great army that I sent among you, you will have plenty to eat, until you are full, and you will praise the name of the Lord your God, who has worked wonders for you. Never again will my people be shamed.
Amen. I think, I think we can say in all of that, and there's a lot of evil in this world, there's a lot of corruptness, but in that God meets us where we're at, and he brings hope and he brings light. So thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you
it's been
very
great.
much. Thank you.
Guys, really hope that you were inspired and challenged by our latest episode. Just want to say a massive thank you to Laura, who came and sat down and talked to me about human trafficking, personal stories, faith, and just taking risks and stepping outside of our comfort zones in order to be radical. If you've got any questions, guys, or if you want somebody on the podcast, please send us a direct message, a DM on Instagram or Facebook. Please continue to like and share and follow Radical Living Podcast and help us get out there. We want to inspire as many people as we can to be radical. If you want to get in touch with Laura, please do so. You can follow Hope+Light Jewelry on social media. Guys, just want to say a massive thank you for all of the love. Couldn't do what we do without it, and stay tuned for a new fresh episode every other Friday. We've got some amazing stories coming up, and please keep an eye on our social media to see who it is. Guys, stay radical. Thank you.